Hey everybody, welcome to this fantastic live session with my friend Ian Westermann from Essential Tennis, and we're going to talk about how to win USTA League doubles matches, and we're going to include some footage as well, so it'll be really fun and interactive, and really happy to speak about our experiences as well, and then answer your questions. So first off, Ian, thanks a lot for joining us, and how's everything going on your end?
Good. I'm doing well. Really busy. I've been doing a lot of coaching on court recently. The footage we're going to be looking at today was from my most recent trip to Indian Wells. Did a couple of doubles clinics there that we really enjoyed a lot. And so when you said you wanted to do a doubles topic, that's the first thing I thought about. So I've grabbed a couple clips from that coaching session that I did this last what month was that? March, just a couple weeks ago. And I'm looking forward to going through it and talking about it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Ian. Yeah, and we see some peeps in the chat already. Oh, my friend Mike Mahaney, excited to learn how to win. Yes, hopefully we can win together, Mike, at some point soon. Sue, I'm so excited for this presentation. I need all the tips I can get. Me too, Sue. Live in. Hi, Ian. So, Ian, let's start off with, this kind of general question, but like in your mind, what are maybe one or two of the biggest keys to winning USTA League doubles matches that we need to know about?
So, okay, everything. I have really strong feelings and opinions on this. I love the topic of doubles. And in my mind, everything basically comes down to, funnels down to one main idea or theme. And that is the difference between being reactive and watching, being a spectator, hoping that you get involved in the point to one degree or another, it's a sliding scale, versus being proactive, doing something ahead of time, being anticipatory, and putting yourself in the middle of the action on purpose instead of waiting to be invited or involved into the point. So everything we're going to talk about today is all going to funnel down to that main theme or that main idea. And when I do a 2-day or a 3-day or a 4-day doubles clinic, everything revolves around that concept. And for me, when I watch beginner to intermediate level doubles, there's a lot of waiting and watching and hoping and praying and wishing. And when I watch high level doubles, it's the opposite. It's unbelievably exciting because all four players are trying to do things to the point ahead of time instead of sitting back and letting the point happen to them. They're happening to the point. And so that's it, and everything's going to come back to that. All three topics we talk about today are going to all funnel back to that idea.
Yeah, great points, Ian. I mean, I can think back to my doubles development, thanks to a lot of great coaches like yourself. And, in the beginning, when I first started playing doubles, which pretty much was in college, to be honest, I was extremely reactive. I was actually just, when I was at the net, I was hoping that my partner would be the one to cover the shots. I mean, I wasn't comfortable volleying and no idea about strategy, poaching and all that and formation. So, now I'm able to think through points more, try to anticipate and try to make things happen, naturally and with plays and such. So, again, really excited to see what you have in store for us. So I guess you want to present a few things to us so we can go to that.
Yeah, so with that theme or that idea in mind, the first thing we're going to talk, I feel the need to set up this first thing we're going to talk about because, and this, I guess if I could boil down my whole tennis career, in-person coaching, content, and being a YouTuber and all that, helping people improve their game. If I could go one step deeper and kind of have even a more fundamental underlying theme or idea, that theme or idea across my whole coaching career I feel like has been illuminating to people things that they knew they should do and they thought they were doing, but they are not doing. And to me, those are the most dangerous gaps in our games. The things that we assume we're doing because we've heard it explained so many times. Anybody who's on this stream, I'm sure has been around tennis for a long time. Otherwise, they wouldn't be nerdy enough and hungry enough to go to YouTube or to Tennis Files or to your conference Mehrban to get more insight. They've probably already been around the block, several times. And the most dangerous gaps for somebody like that are the gaps that they assume they're doing, but they're actually not. And so, because you can continue chasing the next thing, the more advanced, topic, the deeper insight, when the thing that's most obvious and most fundamental and most important is being ignored, and it's just ends up being a huge fundamental flaw. So, with that in mind, our first topic is going to be something everybody knows they're supposed to be doing, but through the years for me doing these clinics, almost nobody frickin' does it. And it blows my mind year after year, clinic after clinic, group after group, that I talk about it, and I know every other coach in the world talks about it, but people don't actually do it. And so I'm going to show some examples, and a pro example, some amateur examples, then show some drills that people can do to actually improve this thing. Do you have any idea, any guesses what I'm talking about, Mehrban?
I don't know. Maybe some doubles movement and covering.
It is related to movement.
Okay, yeah.
It's related to movement, and it's the most fundamental. I talked about the idea or that theme of being proactive versus reactive. It's the first domino that sets off the whole string of dominoes when it comes to being proactive. So let's go to the video, and I'm going to play a pro. This is me doing a quick video analysis in front of some live students. If you could let us know in the chat if you hear it okay. Mehrban, you can hear it, so I assume everybody else can hear it too, but I'm going to start playing it. If you all could let us know in the chat that the audio is coming through, that'd be great. And on the far side gets ready to hit a forehand. I want you to watch the feet of the team in white on the near side, and watch how they're in sync here and what happens with their feet as the ball gets hit. And it's like a ballet kind of like move that they're coming up at exactly the same time, touching down at exactly the same time. And I'm actually going to freeze it right as they both lift right here. So both their feet are off the court surface, their toes are kind of pointing down. Where would you guess the ball is up on the other side of the court? What phase or what part of the hit on the top side would you guess the ball is?
Before hitting.
Just before contact? Any other guesses? We've got at contact. Anybody think after contact? All right, so I'm just going to leave it here, and let's go up to the top and see what's happening here. And so there's the ball right there. Can you see it? And so we'll pause it right at contact, right there. And let's go back down again. And if you look at the feet, they're touching down right now. So they're touching when the ball is, sorry, it's a little bit tough to see, but the ball is right, the ball is right there. So it's probably about a third of the way to the net off the racket when their feet are touching down. So that means the lifting part happened before contact. And they're right about at the top or maybe a little bit on the way down at contact. And after contact is when their feet actually touch on the court. And if we go ahead a little bit and wait for the ball to get to them. So there's the ball getting to the volleyer, and watch Bob and Mike up on the top. Look at how they're both lifting at exactly the same time. I'll go back and forth a couple times. There's the lift and the touch. And so if we pause it right at contact, which is right here, you'll see Bob and Mike are still in the process of coming up. Now they touch down right now, and the ball is right about at the net. So if you just watch Mike on the other side, there's the lift, there's contact, and then he's touching down just after contact. So the timing is activation pre-contact, peak right about at contact, and then touchdown just after the ball has left the strings. Thank you, Pastian. So I've been waiting to say that. So everybody's heard of the split step. Everybody knows they're supposed to split step. This presentation here was being given to 9 4-0 and 4-5 doubles players. These are doubles players that have been playing for, you don't get to 4-0 or 4-5, like your first year. Hardly, it's like 1% of 1% of 1%. Maybe you start playing tennis and you go to 4-0, 4-5. These people have been around the game for a long time. Many of these students, They've been around the game for decades, and they've been told to split step again and again and again, to the point where they are assuming that they are split stepping. Now, after giving this quick example, I asked the student, I had already gone around. If you ever come to one of my clinics, I start every one of my strategy clinics with this. I have everybody warm up with short court, and while they're warming up with short court, I'm running around behind every player with the iPad, because I know just based on my experience that less than 50% of all the players in all my clinics forever are going to be doing the split step at all. And so I want to be able to show people, this is good tennis starts with this. It has to. Because if you don't, here's what it looks like. Here's one of our students in that group. All right, so let's check it out. So racket's coming towards the ball right now. So Lonnie, how would you describe your feet right now? What do they look like?
Black.
Yep. And so the ball is being hit right now. How are your feet now?
They didn't change.
And so the ball's coming. The ball's coming. Okay, now we've got a heel lifting off the court. This is about where the Bryan brothers were touching their toes down on the court, and where Matt was touching his toes on the court when he was demonstrating the split step. And so this is, in a nutshell, the difference. A normal, is completely average, tennis player, all the way up until about 5-0, I would say. It's like the speed is so fast, you don't really have a choice. Like if you're not doing this, you're just not a 5-0 or above, player. So at the same time that the Bryan brothers were touching their toes, Lonnie is lifting a heel. And so that's the difference between reactionary, like it's coming to me, I guess I better do something, and proactive movement. I've already activated my whole body and I'm most ready right now at the same moment. So the difference between pre-activation and doing something with your body and your feet ahead of time to get your body engaged, and waiting and watching to see if the ball is coming towards you and then making a move, it's somewhere between a quarter of a second and a half of a second difference. And in tennis terms, especially doubles, that might as well be a frickin' half an hour. If you're just standing there watching and waiting, which I'm going to repeat, this is not like bagging on this tennis player. This is totally normal. And this is our high-level doubles group that we're doing. She's been playing tennis a long time. She's won a lot of matches at 4.0. Still not using the split step. And so there's a huge opportunity here. Now, I'm going to show another example too. This is of a student who wasn't just standing there. She was moving her feet. And how many times have we been told, move your feet, by a tennis coach? And that's great. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, coach, for telling me to move my feet. That's definitely important, but also pretty self-evident and obvious. I need to be moving my feet. So here's an example of somebody who's taken that to heart, and they are moving, but there's no focus to it. So watch this example really quick. Now look at Julie's feet. You can see Julie she's doing something, right? There's activity. So that's good. That's good.
Getting your steps in.
So as the ball is coming up to Mark, we have both heels off the court. That's an improvement, right? At least there's more athleticism, preemptively happening here. So that's good. So as Mark hits, how are we looking here athletically? So when you're just generally moving, that may or may not sync up with the action that's happening on the other side. So Julie, it's great you're doing something, but if we watch the pattern, it's probably a random pattern. And you kind of get the sense here. There's just kind of steps taking place. If you just watch Julie's feet, it's step, 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 moving step. Your feet, moving
so
your feet.
You've been told by your coaches back home a million times, move your feet, move your feet. And so there's movement. So that's good. The difference between that and what we saw from the professional players is professional players were moving, but then there was a moment of peak preparation and peak activation. And it was I need to be most ready right now, as opposed to just, I'm playing doubles, I'm getting ready for the ball, which is better than doing nothing. I'm not trying to say you're doing a bad job. But do you all see the difference in the precision of the actual activation? So we kind of have three levels here. We have watching and waiting, which is the majority of all tennis players all over the world. We have general movement,
which is a step better than watching and waiting, but it may actually be a detriment because you saw from that student there, she was just kind of generally like stepping back and forth. So if in that rhythm back and forth, you happen to be shifting your weight from like left foot to right foot, and the ball goes to your right, well, you end up being flat-footed and kind of stuck. You have to take another kind of shift back again before you can really push off and go in that direction. So I guess moving your feet, in general is better than standing there, but it might actually be worse. If you end up having to take the wrong, last step right as the ball is being hit, you end up actually shooting yourself in the foot. So doing the split step the right way at the right time is just a massive, instant upgrade for the vast majority of doubles players. Again, these are 4.0 and 4.5 players. There were 9 students in this clinic. 2 of them were split stepping at all. And they even those 2, there were some improvements to their stance and the timing that we were able to make. The other 7 were not split stepping at all. And the 2 that were split stepping had previously done one of my clinics. And so they knew, they saw me going around with the iPad. They knew exactly what was going on. And so they were the model, students. The other 7 that had not done one of my strategy clinics before weren't doing it at all. And I'm sure all 7 of them, if I had pulled them and said, hey, do you know what split step is? Yep. Do you think you're split stepping? Yeah. Mehrban, this is I feel like I'm a crazy person sometimes because this is such a huge focus of mine, and yet clinic after clinic after clinic, nobody's doing it. And I'll go ahead and let you jump in while I tee up what we're going to look at next.
Sure, yeah, no, brilliant stuff. I mean, yesterday we were doing some video analysis with Jeff Salzenstein and John Craig, and there were some individuals, who were for the ground strokes, and they were not doing any sort of split stepping at all. So it's definitely a big common problem, and it's really detrimental to your movement. So you need to definitely be aware of that. Yeah.
So here's a quick drill. Everybody watching can do at home with a partner, and pretty simple. You could also do this watching tennis on TV. I'll talk about that in a sec. But here's the drill that we go through with the students. And pay close attention, everybody watching, to the visual focus that I'm asking my students to do here.
When contact is actually going to happen. Go on back to the court that you were just warming up on, please. All right, I'm going to toss. The ball's going to bounce. You guys are going to practice timing your split step. And I want you to all keep your eyes fixed on my hand, and you will see my intention of when I want to catch the ball. So watch closely. Okay. On average, I think we were a little bit early there. Nice. Good job.
So you'll notice my hand, I'm catching the ball in slightly different positions each time.
Okay. Oh, yep. Super early. That was the closest. Good. You're all a little bit more in sync there. Yeah. Good job. Ooh, nice. You all caught that one. Great job. Now, just for practice, watch the ball. So watch.
How many times have you heard the phrase "watch the ball," Mehrban?
500,000,000.
No. Watch what happens to the split step here when I ask everybody to watch the ball.
Only the ball and try to time the split step. What happened there? That's actually really interesting.
One person didn't even split. He was so fixated on the ball. The other 3 players, it was it was popcorn. It was random timing. And so this is key. And I totally agree with Gustavus in the chat saying movement is good, but timing plays a critical role in being prepared. 1,000, 1,000,000%, exactly correct. The only way to precisely time the split step at exactly the right point is to actually not be watching the ball, but to be watching your opponent's racket and hand and body. And more specifically, I like hand or watching the racket face, because if you can identify when their racket starts moving forwards, now you know when the ball is going to change direction and start coming towards you. But if you're watching the ball, you miss their preparation, stance, their coiling or lack of coiling, the angle of their racket face as they set up, if they're in balance or not in balance. if they're charging forwards to take the ball out of the air or going back to let it bounce and then drop again, you miss all that stuff if you're just tracking the ball. And so I think a big reason why players will maybe try the split step but kind of bail on it is it just feels like out of sync and kind of like clunky. And it's because they're not actually watching the right thing. They're watching the ball and not the hand or the racket face of their partner or their opponent.
Yeah, really great points. We had a presentation with Faisal Hassan, I think it might have been last year, where he talked about, the proper, what you should be looking at. And, once you hit the ball, you should be looking at the opponent for all the different cues to figure out, where they might hit the ball. Was it going to be an aggressive shot or not? And so forth. Then it's after, your opponent hits the ball that you need to be looking at the ball. So yeah, great points there. We got a comment from Xiao's who asked, can you show again what we should be doing, what the split step should be?
Yeah, sure. So if I go back to the pro example really quickly, I think this image right here really kind of tells the story. I'm sorry, I don't have I can't like go back and forth, well, maybe I kind of do it. Let's see.
And if you look at the feet.
Yeah. So what both these players are doing, Sal, is right before the racket starts to swing forwards, they're both lifting up off their toes. And so at the moment the ball touches the racket, they're in this position, which is their feet are double shoulder width apart. Their weight, their posture is leaning forwards over their toes. Their chest is a little bit over their toes. Their knees are bent almost 90 degrees. And then they're going to touch down on the balls of their feet in that like pounce position. That's what a split step is. A lot of people will kind of do a split step, but they're kind of like just doing it because they don't want to get yelled at, and so it's like they're like straight up and down. Their feet are narrow. Their legs aren't very bent. Their balance is much more over their heels, and so they're kind of flat and like straight up and down. And it's just not an athletic position. This is I don't care what sport you play. This is a world-class preparation, position. If you're guarding somebody, in a sport like basketball, or planting and pushing in a particular direction, if you're like a track and field athlete and you want to get a fast start off the line, you'll see basically some variation of loading the body like this. And so this is kind of the key part of it.
Yeah, great stuff there. Cool. Got some good comments here. Do you all notice the net player on the hitting side is split stepping at the same time too? It's a good observation.
Yeah. You'll see at the top of the screen right now is Mike Bryan, and he actually, both the Bryan brothers have the habit of actually splitting it when both shots are hit on both sides. Not always, but oftentimes. That's what Mike was talking about. That's definitely not necessary. To be a good tennis player. Just kind of an interesting habit that some world-class doubles players have.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Yeah, we got a lot of good comments here. Azair, that's what I've been hearing to get to the next level, improve serve and split step timing. Right. Gustavus, movement split step is good, but timing plays a critical role in being prepared. For sure. You got to time it correctly. Steven, the post split measuring steps are a key learning opportunity for me. Good stuff. Mike, maybe he thought you meant only to watch the ball. See, there you go. It's possible. Maybe that's why he didn't split step for that drill you were doing. Yeah. Got Chad, nice simple drill for beginners. Good stuff. Let's see who else. Christopher, we see the doubles team at the net. Sad to say, something that is becoming a rarity today, particularly at the club level. What do you think about that, Ian? Because you have the debate on the one hand that all the doubles players should get to net as much as they can, but then you have the other side of the coin that's like you should play to your strengths, and maybe if you have a big forehand and serve, then maybe you do stick around at the baseline a bit. So, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, what it boils down to is short-term optimization versus long-term developmental optimization. In the short term, the majority of tennis players are more comfortable at the baseline than net. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a relatively green 3-0, player, or maybe kind of relatively bumped up 3-5 player to do a whole lot of serving and volleying and returning and volleying when most of their practice time and most of their match play is spent at the baseline. So in terms of like short-term optimization for this coming season, probably makes more sense to play one up, one back. But if that same 3-5 player has aspirations, like serious like drive and passion for the game, and badly wants to be a 4-5 player, sticking with that same pattern and doubling down on that discomfort at the net, and more specifically, discomfort of transitioning from baseline up to the net, then it's just going to be a big gap in that person's game. It doesn't mean you have to serve and volley to be a 4-5 player. It doesn't mean you have to return and volley to be a 4-5 or 5-0 player. There's lots of great players that stay back, even on the professional level. But if you go your entire tennis career and you ignore a big chunk, technically speaking and tactically speaking, like the transition game, and you never develop that as a comfort level, as something in your toolbox, then you're just always going to have a gap in your game there. So for people watching that want to optimize for this coming season, I would say polish what you're already good at and double down on what you're already comfortable with. If you're looking 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, developmentally, then learning how to transition to the net is a massive, massive tool.
Yeah, appreciate that. Let's see what else we have. Is there any, Ian and Mehrban, any YouTube links for videos and drills to get started and time it correctly? Who doesn't split step today? I mean, I'm sure if you just go on Essential Tennis, you can Google that, right? Or, YouTube search it.
Yeah, I'm pulling up right. I mean, I can post links in the chat, but yeah, what I'm literally doing is going to YouTube and I'm going to type in Essential Tennis Split Step, and everybody knows how to use the Google by this point.
Almost.
If you do that, then there are 5 videos come up right away from Essential Tennis that are all split step focused. And there's a bunch of drills you can do at home, in addition to what I shared today, that people can do even by yourself at home to be able to start to develop this.
Gotcha. Excellent stuff, Ian. And so, yeah, I didn't know if you had any other clips to share. Otherwise, we can go to, questions, and I can ask you some questions as well.
Well, we got 2 more topics, Mehrban, if that's okay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Cool. Yeah.
So I've queued up a second video here. I don't know if you have to,
Oh, yeah, I can
kind of bring it in.
Grab a quick drink.
Whoa.
Oh, it's
all right, cool.
Okay.
So, split step. That's the first domino, like I said before, when it comes to being proactive instead of reactive. And it's just it's non-negotiable for me. You can't say you're just not playing your best tennis if you're not split stepping. And it's just,
yeah.
I'll leave it at that. Once you start doing that as a habit, then putting yourself in the way of the ball, anticipating the flow of the point, and putting yourself in the way of the rhythm or the pattern, the predominant pattern that's playing out throughout points, is the next best way to make your opponents uncomfortable, to throw a wrench in the middle of the patterns that they would like to play, and to go do something productive for your team instead of waiting on your side and covering your side or covering your alley, and just waiting for there's 3 different kinds of poaches. There's the poach where you're waiting and watching, and after the ball's been hit, you're like, you know what? I think I could reach that. And so you take 2 or 3 steps and you go get the ball and you hit it. Everybody watching this already knows how to do that. The second kind of poaching is where you are making an informed decision. You're making an educated guess about where you believe the ball is going next. And everybody on the stream can do that, but that doesn't necessarily have the bravery or the courage to do it. And what we're about to talk about, I'm confident will give them the bravery and the courage to be able to do that. And so you're making a move preemptively to put yourself in the middle of where you believe the ball is going next. And that's what we're going to talk about in a moment. And then the third kind of poaching is the one that you plan with your partner. The second one, the middle one, is freelancing. You're seeing something, it's cueing you to the fact that there's an opportunity about to take place. And so you're going to cash in on that opportunity. The third one is like when you talk to your partner before the point, you're like, hey, I'm going to poach on this one. And so you're both on the same page. We're talking about the second one here. And so here's an example of the Bryan brothers doing that second kind of poaching.
Watch. Let's just go ahead and just play at full speed first. It's going to be kind of jarring because there's this like French like overlay there right before the point actually starts. So the serve's actually already been hit. This is the returner. Watch what happens here. So it's kind of like a classic poach, but we're going to really break this down. And I want you guys to watch Bob up at the net. Here's the ball, it's just bouncing right about now in the service box. And watch when exactly he makes his move across the net. How would you guys describe the timing of when he begins his sideways movement across the net?
When he starts his swing almost.
I like that.
And they're looking at the ball.
I like that description a lot.
The student said when he starts to swing forwards. That's what I'm responding to there.
I mean, I think as soon as you saw a hit on like the T side, he was committed. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? Because if I'm
Yeah, if the serve would have went to his forehand, he probably would have stayed.
Maybe.
And now some other students just said, well, it was probably like like they were planning it out. And so like he was poaching from the beginning.
So I think what I understand what you're saying, Julie. I think what you're saying is he knew he was going to poach, but he hasn't moved yet. Am I correct on that assumption? Okay.
So I'm sure they
Yeah, he
figured out their plan ahead of time, but he actually executed, and he's like, yep, this is
the bounce.
So let me play devil's advocate a little bit, Julie. Oftentimes that will be the case. But let's look at the server. Watch the server after the serve gets hit. Does it look like the server knows that he has to cover the other side?
No.
So he's showing no, yeah. So he's just coming in to serve and volley on his own side. So that means this person is freelancing here and just making the move, like solo, right?
Based on where the serve location was. Or
Maybe,
something like
yeah. Or what's based on something, some kind of read here.
that. Got jammed with it.
If it was me, if I like put my tacticianer hat on, as soon as I see the racket go back with an open face, I know it's going to be a slice.
Yeah.
And if I see that right about here, I'm really thinking hard. If I'm the Bryan brothers, like I'm not concerned about, and it's just going to kind of be a.
Oh no, I clicked the wrong place. Sorry, I was going to say it. I was going to pause it to say that's a big if I was the Bryan brothers, and I clicked the play ahead. Sorry about that. My bad.
Okay.
Let me go back to where
like
we were.
the server knows that he has to cover the other side. So he's showing. I see that right about here. I'm really thinking hard. If I'm the Bryan brothers, like I'm not concerned about a slice like hurting me necessarily. It's not.
Hard to pull that down the wall.
Yeah, or just hit anything super offensive. So the timing that I heard, I don't know if it was Bryan or somebody else that said it, that I think is super key, is the timing of his movement across the net coincides with the timing of the racket starting to travel forwards. As soon as the racket starts moving forwards, so notice that's before the hit, the move is being made. And so we're trying to hit this sweet spot where once the racket starts moving forwards, the target's already been selected, because based on when the racket starts moving forwards, we've chosen a timing based on where we'd like to hit the ball. And Bob up at the net doesn't necessarily know if it's down the line or cross court, but based on his experience as a doubles player, he knows that generally the back player tries to hit cross court. Sometimes pros try to go down the line too, but the majority of the time they're trying to target a percentage cross court shot. So with that in mind, once he sees a neutral or like defensive kind of setup, as he's up there in his split step and preparing, he's waiting for the racket to start moving forwards, which means his opponent has already decided where he's going to hit, and then he's starting to move. Whether or not the opponent sees him, he doesn't care. In fact, he'd probably prefer it if the returner actually sees him move, because the chances of the returner like stopping his swing and realigning his like body and his racket somewhere else, especially with a 120 mile an hour or whatever serve, is basically zero.
Okay, so several things are being layered here. Number one, knowledge of where the ball usually goes. We've all watched and been part of the most boring doubles point, ever, where both the net players like stand there and both the baseline players hit high and slow cross court like 25,000 times back and forth, and net players just stand there and like watch the ball go back and forth. Everybody knows they're supposed to generally hit cross court. So we know that as experienced tennis players. And then we're layering on top of that the knowledge of our opponent's setup, which we will only know if we're watching their racket and not the ball. This goes back to proper split step timing and recognition. And then on top of that, we are optimizing our timing so that we're going right as our opponent has decided where they will hit. That is before they hit. If we wait for the ball to be hit and then try to chase it, then by definition we are being reactionary. And we're hoping that we can catch up to the ball. The only way to be consistently in the middle of the action is to do something proactive. That means do something ahead of time as opposed to reactive, waiting for the action to start and then be like, oh, I hope I can be part of this. This looks like so much fun. And it's too late by the time the ball's been hit, if it's a decent shot. Everybody watching this knows how to intercept a crappy shot. That nobody watching this needs to know how to intercept a crappy shot. What we're talking about is intercepting shots that you wouldn't have normally intercepted. And so with that in mind, here is an example of a student a little bit earlier in the day going through a point, and this is going to be super familiar to everybody. So this is a classic example of being reactive in a point. So everybody was going to be able to relate to this. Deeper into the point. It goes back to defense and then moves up to offense. So this is kind of move number one, from defense to offense. As Julie's getting ready to hit the ball, right about here, if Ed stopped and made his cut towards the center of the net cord, that would be his poach move. Instead, Ed is stopping here, waiting and kind of judging, can I reach it, can I reach it? Unfortunately, he can't, and so he has to go back again. And so that completes kind of the third leg of this movement, hypothetically. So there's defense, here's offense, and Julie's starting to swing forward, so Ed would already have to start moving in order to have a good chance of cutting off the ball. Instead, he's waiting until after she hits and then asking himself the question, can I get it? Like, you can see he wants it. Like, there's the intention there that he would like to intercept it. But if he repeats that timing, then he's constantly going to be like a half a second behind. Yeah. And so if you wait for contact, you're by definition, you're kind of chasing after the ball. Sense. So what we're going to practice now is the timing of actually leaving just before contact, but after the body has started turning forwards, and see if we can hit that sweet spot. So an important point here, something I said very briefly in the previous section of the video, is we almost kind of hope that they see us going, assuming we're not too early. Mm-hmm. If you move towards the middle, before they even start their forward swing, then they have the opportunity to change where they would like to hit and pick a different timing of swing to go down the line instead. If instead, their body has already started turning forwards and their racket has already started coming forwards towards the ball. They've already selected a target. They've already locked in their timing to hit that target. And if at that point they see you going, it doesn't make any difference. In fact, it will probably negatively impact their ability to hit the same quality shot that they were going to. And so there's this perfect split second of time that we're really trying to hit as good doubles players. And if you're a little bit early, then they see you and they can adjust. But if you wait too long, then you're in this perpetual purgatory, just going back and forth, oh, can't get that one, and then go back again. Oh, can't get that one, and then back again. Everybody who's watching this stream knows what that feels like. And so it takes a little bit of bravery and courage to go that split second sooner. But that's where all the opportunity is in that sweet spot right in between those two chunks of time. Does that make sense, Mehrban?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, basically, right when the forward movement of the racket is going to occur is when you should start the move.
Yep.
Yep.
So let's look at an example now of what this looks like when done really well. So here's our students just a couple minutes later. Let's see here. I want to make sure I get the right time. All right, check this out.
I thought it was pretty fantastic. Who's that on the
Is this the right? Yeah, that's it.
other side? Is that Ed? No. Who's got orange on? That's Scott. Scott on the other side. Look at the timing here.
You see the sink there?
So right as Scott starts to rotate his body forwards,
That's the sweet spot.
Pull the racket around. Eric is making that move towards the center.
Is that the Bryan brothers?
Yeah. And so he easily gets to a ball stepping across the center of the line. He's not reaching or stretching or like in any other way looking, out of balance. And he got there from this position just because of the timing that he used to go towards the ball. So that's the pocket right there. Like that's exactly what we're looking for. Even if Scott.
So look at where he started. Like he's in a pretty neutral net position. He's not over covering the alley. He's not like camping on the alley, but he's not camping on the center either. He's like right in the middle of the box, and he ends up comfortably hitting a volley on the other side of the court. And it's because of the timing. If he had waited a half a second for the ball to get hit and then try to chase down that same ball, maybe he could have touched it, but it would have been like a stretch and it would have been much less comfortable shot.
Scott had seen him like right here. There's just no way to stop and then like retime the swing. So Eric, that was awesome.
Does that make sense, Mehrban?
Yeah, 100%. Love to see it. Great stuff.
Okay, so we're gonna add one more layer to this. Any questions you want to answer before we go to our last video?
Yeah, let's take a quick look. Let's see. So, when the server stays back on his serve, should the returner return short or high and deep?
Well, high and deep is a lot safer. There's much more clearance over the net. Generally, when players are aiming short, they're also a lot of times trying to put some angle on it as well. So we're just dealing with lower margins. I would say high and deep unless the net player is like really problematic. If the net player is doing a whole lot of what we just saw from that student, then that's when you want to maybe start considering doing like a shorter, lower angle over the top of the net.
Got it. And Sifu, should we be moving forward as we split step?
Most of the time, but not always. If the point situation is you just hit a half volley and popped it up in the air, and you see your opponents coming in to like smash a high volley, then you'd actually want to be creating as much space as possible between yourself and your opponents before they hit. And so in that example, you'll see professional players quickly like scurry backwards and then make a split step while they're moving backwards. Most of the time, though, you're going to want to have a little bit of forward momentum. If it's a neutral or an offensive situation, then you should definitely, your weight should be going forwards. But in a defensive situation, like in that situation I just laid out, you want to charge forwards and split step, with your nose leaning forwards as your opponent's getting ready to smash a high volley.
Yeah, for sure. One other one just for now. Tracy, I think we're going back a little bit, but Mike, she says, Mike must be keying off the opponent's split step. Is that right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, we were talking about the Bryan brothers splitting at both hits, like on their side and the other side. Yeah, both the Bryans are probably watching the other players like a hawk, not the ball, but the other players. And so they see when the other players are activating themselves, which gives them the cue of like when the ball is about to be hit behind them, not watching behind them, but watching the other players. And so yeah, there's probably a lot of that going on.
Got it. I'm sorry, I skipped one. Maybe we could answer this. Gustavus, breaking down the split, is the lift a total body lift or just isolated in the legs?
Interesting question. I mean, I would say total body, literally in the sense that the body is actually like levitating. If we were to look at those professional players and like draw a line at the top of their head, the top of their head is gently, raising and then lowering. Again, it's like their upper body is not staying isolated and then like just their toes like picking up and coming down. It's definitely the whole body is getting into the flow of that move.
Yeah, by the way, I like when you did that. You look kind of like a magician or something. You can do a trick with that. Yeah.
And then isolate the head up and down.
That's right. Love it. All right. Cool. I can't resist a weird joke, of course. So yeah, we can move on for now, and we'll get the other questions later.
That can be your thumbnail.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's go to the third video, please, Mehrban.
Okay, sure. Let's see. Is that
all right?
This one?
They're
So-
touching down right
Oh,
now.
No, that's not.
So they're touching.
Is that right?
No, that's the split step one.
Okay, wait.
Because of the timing that he
That's the
used
second one.
to go towards the ball.
Oh, sorry, it was below my screen. Okay. here
There we go. No worries.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of our students are implementing everything perfectly. They're split stepping. Now they're starting to poach. They're doing things ahead of time. They're a force to be reckoned with on the court. And the more active you are, so Mehrban, put yourself in this scenario. Like, so you're being a good little doubles player. You're pre-activating your body. You're getting preloaded ahead of time. You're starting to make early moves. You're picking off balls over in the middle of the court, maybe even clear over on your opponent's side. Your partner's other side of the court. What is the natural response by the opposing baseline player as you do all those things and you do it well?
I mean, they're probably going to be a little bit flustered, but might start going down the line.
Yeah, that's right. That's everybody's like, oh, I can't leave early. They're going to beat me down the alley. To which I say, fantastic. If they start trying to beat you down the alley, you are now in control. You are the puppet master, and you are forcing them into targets. And now we can really totally manipulate the point. And so that's what we're going to talk about. This is where things get, super, super fun. So let's watch this pro example here.
Second hand is most reliable. So we're going to look at another point here, and our focus is going to be on this player. Mike, back at the baseline, is serving, and we're going to watch the timing of the net player movement relative to what the returning player is going to do. Okay, this is going to be different. So serve is coming into the box. What is the timing of this move? You see the net player? You see this movement
With the serve.
towards the middle?
Yeah, he's moving because the serve is middle.
So what do you think is happening here? Why is he going so early?
Serve down the tee.
Yeah, he's moving with the ball.
Okay. Watch what happens next. So the racket really has barely been taken back by the returner, right? So this is guaranteed to be seen by this player. Like, he hasn't even begun the process of making his forward swing. And Bob up here at the net, let's see where he started. He started with his feet here. And by the time the ball bounces, his feet are here. He just moved 4 or 5 feet before the racket even really got set to swing. So what he's doing is trying to bait the returner into doing something that he wants him to do. So he's going early enough that he knows he's going to be seen, and then watch what happens when the racket starts going forwards. So he's baiting that target on purpose. He's going early enough that he knows he's going to be seen, and then he's timing his cut back towards the alley with the forward swing. So he's, in effect, poaching back in the direction he started from. And he's moving really early so that he gets seen and he draws the attention of the returner, draws the target of the returner, and then at the right time goes back again at the moment that the returner can't change his mind anymore.
So this is so huge, Mehrban. Once we've poached successfully enough times, any good, confident doubles player on the other side is going to try to beat us down the alley. And what they're feeling in that moment is pressure. Sal in the chat said stressful, and when I was putting you in that position, they're feeling stress. Like, I got to come up with some other response other than the normal one, which is cross court. That's like the standard shot. Now I have to try something different. And once they feel that pressure to have to try something different, now we can really mess with them by baiting them to do it, and then go back and wait for it there, and then put the ball away. And so it's a double move. We're purposefully moving very early in move number one to draw the attention of the baseline player, and then timing move number 2 the way we timed the poach before, so that we're going back again and timing it just right so that even if they see us go back towards the alley, it's too late. They've already started their swing. So first of all, does that make sense, Mehrban? And then I'm going to show you an example here.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I'm curious, with the Bryan brothers, like, so when they do that fake poach, I mean, are there some times where the net player jumps early and then actually completes the poach because they know that the other player knows that they're going to fake, and so they keep, they go across.
Oh man, now you're speaking my language, Mehrban. Yeah, and we're gonna actually see student examples of doing that. So that's like a double move where it's like, and once you have all 3 options, now you can just totally mess with your opponents like all day long. Option number 1 is just the well-timed poach. Option number 2 is look, see me over here, and then going back to cover where they're going to try to beat you. And then option number 3 is knowing that they know that you're probably faking, but then going anyway. And once you start to rotate through all 3 of those options, they have no idea what the heck is going on at the net. So here's an example of that first one, like a well-timed fake.
First move here. So well before the swing starts, and look at how she's catching herself right before Judd starts to make his forward swing, and then pushes back again. So see the timing there with the forward swing and the second move? And so that allows her to get in position to be able to hit an easy shot. Now, just looking at it here, Julie, which target, so let's just say, hypothetically, we got a couple of target zones here.
So the fake worked. And do you see how that lined up? And she timed it perfectly. Here's just a little bit of quick bonus material here in terms of targets.
We could hit off the court here, we could hit in between them, and we could hit off the court over there. Which one just visually looks like it's most obvious? Yeah. And I saw a big pattern from you, but this is super important for everybody, and especially with Ed's position here. Ed's kind of preemptively in a bit of an offensive position because he's hoping to get his way into the point the next time the ball comes back, and so he's floating away from the center a little bit already, which I don't blame him for. He wants to be part of the action, so that exposes that gap in the middle. But Julie, I see this all the time. You're trying to hit that, that target over there, which if you just look at it, visually it's just like, there's so much room in the middle there. And you didn't do that every time, but you definitely have opportunity for being a little bit more, I don't want to say safe, but you're going to be much more successful with, watch this move here, very, very similar, catching yourself, pushing back right during the forward swing. You got Judd to go again, exactly where you wanted to go. This is such a higher percentage target. Mm-hmm. Plus, you got to try to hit Ed. It's a double. Not that one. No.
Racket, I think.
No,
right?
yeah, you got a racket on that one. Ed, by the way, in a better defensive position. You can see him like being ready for it, and it's still an extremely difficult shot. And you're hitting a target that's giving you 20 feet of margin for error all the way around it. And so, over the course of a whole match, you're just going to have much higher percentage luck with that.
Okay, so this is phase 2 of being a good net player. A proactive net player is phase 1 was poaching. Phase 2 is faking. And now we're going to take a look at phase 3 here, which is when things get really, really interesting.
Some awesome moves. So here's movement number 1 towards the middle, catching himself. Movement number 2, ready? Move number 3, going back towards the middle again. Now you missed that volley, but you converted on a lot of them up at the net. But this timing is so fantastic. Early enough that Julie obviously can see it, and it looks like a fake. But then look at how the timing of his catch here. He's catching himself right before her forward swing and then going again. And so obviously he would take that volley, all day.
And I just want to say, like, these are regular everyday players, and like we throughout the course of the clinic, we demonstrated things, illustrated them through analysis, asked them to go out there and just try it, give it a shot. And these are the types of moves that we're starting to see from these players. And it makes it so hard on the baseline. They just don't know what's available anymore. Is it down the line or is it cross court? I have no idea. once you start throwing these in, the baseline player basically just has to pick a shot and hope that that's the direction that's available, but they really don't know until after the fact. All right, now this was the best move of the whole clinic, probably the whole trip right here. We saved the best for last year. Watch this this double move and then the conversion on this one.
Burn the tape. Burn the tape.
I'm letting everybody know, like, this is going to be everybody. Ed, in the orange on the other side is kind of like the class. Everybody has the class clown, right? Every clinic. Ed's the class clown, and so everybody enjoyed this a lot.
All right, so here's the feed down the line. Julie with an early move, and then catching herself, and then a double move. So we have multiple players doing double moves here. Here's move one towards the middle, faking that she's going back again, and then look at how she's timing her move back towards the middle with the forward swing from Judd. Judd has no ability to catch that and stop and redirect. He's already made his decision in terms of where the ball is going to go. So awesome double move, Julie. Ready? Uh-oh. Ready?
Wait for it.
Ready? That's the money shot right there.
Rewind. Go for it.
I've been meaning to make a GIF of that and post it on our YouTube channel just to troll Ed. But it was such a good move by Julie. And if you just put yourself in the shoes of that baseline player, if you can competently do all three of those things, the baseline player is what are you going to do? You maybe the lob is kind of like the last resort, right? But in terms of cross quarter down the line, who knows? If you can successfully do all three of those, then they're just totally guessing at that point.
Yeah, it reminds me of the running backs and whatnot when you do all these jukes and you just have no idea where they're going to go.
Yeah, totally.
Love that. Well, it's not the worst place to get hit.
No, it could have been a lot worse.
Will hit me in a far worse place a couple weeks ago, so that was not good.
But do you have a video of it?
No, so I didn't.
Ah, come on.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't like to be videotaped. But anyways, good stuff there, Ian. And we have a lot of questions. Do you want me to ask some questions?
Yeah, sure.
From the audience? Okay, great. Did I ask this? Oh yeah, I love the net, but my friends know it, so I get lobbed a lot, and feel the need to stay at service line or baseline. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so for every good tactical move, there's a best strategic response, right? And so if you have just a boss up at the net who's especially if they just are on top of it and they're just just a monster on top of the net cord, then the lob is just the most obvious play. It's going to get used. And so at that point, what you need is excellent anticipation of the lob, excellent footwork, so that you can athletically get back after you've read that the ball is going to be a lob, which you should be able to read it before it gets hit, by the way, proactively, not reactively. An okay lob is impossible if you're standing there and watching it and then going, oh crap, I got lobbed, and then trying to go back. If you're anticipating it, an okay lob should be smash fest if your footwork is good and your overhead swing mechanics are good. So there's the three-pronged response: anticipation, athletic footwork, and quality mechanics on the overhead. If you have those three things, then no problem. If you're missing one of them, you're probably still okay. If you're missing two or three of them, then you just got stymied. They just neutralized you, and now you're kind of stuck.
Got it. I'm just gonna put my pun here, which is terrible.
Hey.
I know it's bad. I'm sorry. Thank you, Sifu. Is he moving before contact? Isn't that too soon?
Sifu, go back to the beginning of the stream and watch the first half an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe he missed the first half an hour.
Probably, yeah. And you can watch the replay, over again.
Awesome.
For a while. So yeah, cool. Chad, so just for clarity, we want players to hop and land on the contact point of the hitting player.
No, we want the peak of the hop to be contact of the hitting player. Mm-hmm. We want the touchdown to be synced with your identification of where the ball is going. So that right at the moment your toes touch on the court, you can spring and use all that momentum that you've already gotten into motion, to begin with, and just flow and spring in the direction of the ball. If you were to touch down at contact, then there'd be like a quarter of a second of time before you knew for sure where the ball was going, and then you could move. And so you would end up actually feeling, kind of clunky, and you'd end up feeling reactionary again because you're touching down before you even know where the ball is going.
Got it. Awesome. Let's see. Artie is enjoying it. Excellent presentation. Learning a lot. Greatly appreciated. Love to see that. Let's see. Chad. So that was just a follow-up, but I think we got the gist of it there. Tracy, can you quickly talk about racket face orientation as the body is turning slice lob relative to first move?
Yeah, so that's what I meant about anticipation on to tell that the lob is coming. And the racket face will tell you so much. If we talked about this when we first looked at poaching, we saw the returner setting up in a backhand slice position, and I was just kind of speculating. I bet that played a big role in Mike's huge move across the net, because from an open racket face position, you can, best case scenario, you're going to play a neutral shot. Is it technically possible to hit an offensive slice? Yeah. But from a baseline position, when you're at the net, when you see an open racket face, it's either going to be a lob or it's going to be a backspin shot. And relative to a drive or a topspin shot, there's just much less opportunity to hit the ball hard, aggressively, offensively. And so that's basically the importance of it. If you see the racket go back square or closed, then you know for sure that they want to hit this ball strongly. You know that they're going to at least try to hit a neutral shot, possibly an offensive shot. When you see an open racket face, you know that best case scenario, it's going to be a neutral shot, possibly a defensive shot. And so that's, in a nutshell, kind of the mindset behind it.
Yeah, and kind of along the fake poach route, sometimes what I'll do, say if the opponent hits a short ball to me, and I have to hit a slice and they see my racket open, I'll actually slice down the line because a lot of times they'll move expecting the cross court. Yeah,
you're
so
sneaky. I'm going to have to keep an eye on you, Mehrban.
Yeah. You need to, for other things as well as tennis. Let's see here. So, Andrew, yeah, thanks. How often should I try to poach without having my opponents expect it? Well,
no,
that's an interesting
Andrew,
go for that.
You're asking the wrong question, Andrew. I want my opponent to know I'm poaching, not necessarily in a micro sense, on this specific point, on this specific shot. Of course, I don't want them to know which side I'm about to go to, but yeah, this is such a good question, Andrew. The underlying attitude from most tennis players is, how can I go from this side of the court to that side of the court without them knowing? Can you tell me how I can move 20 feet without them seeing or hearing or knowing that I ever did it, and have them look up and be like, who's that? I don't even know who that player is. How did he get over there? I have no idea. That's not possible unless you're
a ninja.
A ninja, or what's his name? David Copperfield. If you're a world-renowned magician, yeah, there you go. Then maybe you can pull that off. But until you are, it's actually much better that they know you're doing something, because that puts a seed of doubt in their head. And as soon as they're unsure about what's available and what's not, then you really can kind of dictate what happens in the point. That doesn't mean you're always going to win the point. They're going to burn you sometimes. And for me personally, and based on your comments, Mehrban, I'm guessing you're going to agree with me. I'm actually kind of excited when I get burned. When I poach and my opponent burns me down the line, I'm so excited about that, because I know that they're happy about it. And now, if I go really early and fake on the very next point, there's a 98% chance that they try to go down the line again to catch me again, because they're like, oh, I thought I taught you a lesson first time. Let me show you who's in charge here. So I'm going really early and then going back again with a 90% likelihood that I'm about to get the ball. and now I'm the one that's really kind of dictating what's happening in the point. So for me, like you need to change that question to how do I get them to think I'm poaching, not how do I keep them from expecting it. I want them to expect it.
Yeah, the fake poach can be so satisfying, and also, a couple months ago I played 8-5 with a 3-5 partner, but I at one point, like, basically if they return the ball, like the point was very in doubt, return it back to my partner. So I actually poached every single point for like 3 games, and
Nice.
and I think they might have hit down the line like 1 time, which was insane to me, but I mean,
Yep.
it just goes to show that some people don't even adjust like what they're doing. So it's not like you have to be so worried about like them noticing, and you can always adjust, if they notice, like Ian said with the fake. So yeah, good stuff. Steven, the guy popped up through well before the hit. I don't know if that was what that's in reference to.
I'm guessing that was a while ago. I'm not sure which example that was.
Yeah, you could clarify, Steven, and we'll come back to it. Let's see. I think I popped this up earlier. It was total body as far as like, the split step, Mike. Yeah, so good stuff. Artie's enjoying it. Excellent to see. It's actually, some of this might be from a while back. Okay, here we go. What a name. Love it.
All right. Yeah, name of the day.
Of the year. How can we win in mixed? How can we win in mixed when most balls go to my female 3.5 partner since I'm a 4.5 male? I don't think I can poach all the time to not be predictable. There it goes again. So what do you think, Ian?
Yep. Yeah, exactly what you just said, Mehrban. So there's like layers to this. Layer 1 is poach every freaking point.
Yeah.
Until the number of times you've been beat down the alley is greater than the number of times that you intercept the ball. And that's phase 1. And you might potentially go a whole set before that gets out of balance, and they're actually beating you more than you're intercepting the ball. Then when that happens and it starts to get close to being even, that's when you use the fake, and you start showing them a big early move and then going back and intercepting the ball when they go down the line. Then, when that starts working less than 50% of the time, you do the double move. When you start doing a lot of fakes, and they're like, "Oh, I see what's going on here. I'm just going to go cross court. I see that you're faking. I'm just going to go cross court." That's when you throw in a huge early move, act like you're going back, but just stand there and put your racket up, and they'll just hit the ball right to your racket. And that's like you said before, Mehrban. That's like the most satisfying thing ever. And so you just keep rotating around that merry-go-round of poaching and then faking and then double moving. And if you effectively do all 3 and you effectively rotate between those 3, then that's how you win that match.
Yeah, love it. Love the layers there, and just the ability to think through things and change it up. It's really fun. So thank you, Fart Monkey. Let's see, Mark. Also, the serve was close to the tee, so the receiver had to hit at an angle that favored the reverse movement to poach. Yeah, I think you probably know what he's talking about. It was the fake that you showed. Let's see. I put another pun up there, a double move. You that's what you said, double move. Good
Double
pun.
move.
Yeah, well done. Robert, what about using the drop volley on the poach?
Sure. Yeah, I drew earlier. I drew those circles.
Yeah.
It was related to the fake poach, but it's basically the same thing. Like you can either try to go between the players, you can try to go to the outside of the net player, or you can try to drop something at an angle on the baseline player's side. Like those are your 3 main options. And along with that, you can throw in the variety of hitting short on the baseline, player's side, and or an angle, or some combination. I like just going at the net player's feet. It's just such an easy target, unless they have hands like Navratilova. Just keep making them having to have to dig that out. Personally, I'm going to make them prove that they can, like 4 or 5, 6 times, before I start thinking about anything more fancy than that, because it's just such an easier target.
Yeah, 100%. They don't have any time to hit the ball, really. Let's see. Mike, yep, glad you like that joke. Chad, he's manipulating receiver shot selection. Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
For sure. 100%. Rob, nice move. Let's see, for sure. Sifu, how do you work the stagger formation when your team is getting lobbed a lot? It's a good question.
Yeah, so for me, all that really means is the net player is playing off a little bit more in anticipation of a lot of lobs. When you're playing a really defense-minded team, which you will in doubles, then you have to anticipate the lob is coming anytime you're inside the service line, basically. You're going to play some teams where they won't ever lob because they're just kind of like that macho, mentality, and they're just going to try to smash everything between you and your partner or down the alley. And then all the way on the other side of the spectrum, which is more common for most players, is as soon as your nose is over the service line, then it's a sky lob, up in the air. And so in that scenario, you have to have somebody who's kind of like in football, in American football, there's the term the spy. Basically a defensive player whose only job is to just play spy on either a quarterback or like running back or some offensive like player that's a huge threat. And so you kind of need to be a spy at that point and just be sniffing out the lob. And so, yeah, a very good defensive team, you have to kind of respect that and play a little bit more off as your standard position.
Yeah, great stuff there, Ian. Randy, Skur, Ian, it must be hard being so awesome. I'm sure it is.
Somebody's got to do it, Randy.
Yeah, somebody's got to.
It's a tough job.
Put up. It is. You're working hard, Ian. Steven, second video, guy was popping up well before the ball got to the racket of the opponent. Guess, though, that was premeditated.
Second, so that would have been the poach. You want to go back to the video really quick? It's probably the pro example on the second video.
The pocket right there. Like that's exactly what.
Let's see. Let me go back to the pro example. Is this the right one?
Maybe is that the wrong video?
Poach. Oh no, it's the right one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
21. So popping up well before the ball got to the racket of the opponent. Yeah. So watch the timing again, Stefan. It is before. Keep in mind this is a 120-mile-an-hour serve. Okay, like the chunks of time we're dealing with here are way smaller than what the rest of us are used to dealing with. So yeah, with that in mind, you're right. It is well before the ball gets to the racket. What we're really interested in is when the racket starts to move, not how far away the ball is from the racket. So watch it again really quick.
Watch Bob up at the net. Here's the ball is just bouncing right about now in the service box. And watch when exactly he makes his move across the net.
So it's not about where, it's when. We have to sync it with the commitment of the hitting player's racket. That's the sweet spot. And if the ball's traveling 5 miles an hour, then there's going to be tons of space between the ball and the player. If the ball is moving 150 miles an hour, then it's going to be completely different in terms of where the ball is. So don't get so hung up on like how far away the ball is from the racket. It's all about the movement of the racket, which indicates they've committed to a target. That's the sweet spot for the timing. Does that make sense?
Excellent. Yeah, total sense. Excellent. Christopher, the line is not an easy shot to execute. It's very low percentage. You're going over the high part of the net. High-level players often fail to execute this stroke, specifically on the backhand side. Yeah, it's a tough shot.
For sure.
Yeah, that's why
we
don't really mind. Yeah.
That's normally kind of the main reason coaches make is, it's so hard to hit down the line. But that doesn't help tennis players when they actually get beat down the line. It almost kind of makes it worse, right? Because we've been told that that's not a smart shot. So when we're trying to be proactive and we get beat, it almost makes it worse that we got, because you're thinking to yourself, they're not supposed to be able to make that shot, but they're making it anyway. And so it almost kind of stings more. So I really, over the years, I've actually moved away from not even focusing on that. But it is another fringe benefit for sure.
Ian, so one of my own questions here is, in your opinion, I mean, we've talked about, obviously split step, poach, fake poach, but as far as the other plays, the I formation and Australian, which I like using a lot, at what level do you think generally, players should start integrating the I formation Australian and the others?
Well, we teach the Australian in our 3035 strategy clinics.
Awesome. Nice.
I mean, for me, that's a no-brainer. Australian is so easy. You don't have to deal with the net player like crouching or like squatting down, or the server having to like hit over the top of the head of their partner, like any of that, nonsense. The I formation is the Cadillac of doubles formations. Like it's the most powerful, most versatile thing you can do in doubles, but there are real like limitations in terms of confidence of the serve, and then like the athleticism of the players, and communication has to be tight in I formation, or else you're totally like on different pages. So we teach Australian right away to beginners, and it's super powerful and super easy, and everybody should use the Australian formation. The I formation I don't talk about in our lower level clinics because there's just so many more challenges to it. So I would say once you get up to solid 4-0, definitely by 4-5, the I formation is super powerful. It just takes a little bit more skill to pull off.
Got it. Love to hear that. And yeah, sorry, Sifu, I didn't even see your question. Like when I asked my own question, usefulness of the Australian I formations. I mean, yeah, I think we covered that probably. But Tracy, I think Ian is a bit of a data analytics nerd. That's why why Essential Tennis is awesome. I agree.
Thanks, Tracy.
Yeah, it's very important to be looking at those things. Let's see, Jason, how much of all this info could pertain to singles, if any?
The first 25 minutes where we talked about the split step, 100% correlation, the whole thing. You're looking at different things and anticipating different patterns, but the core foundation, like the principle of it, I start all my doubles and all my singles strategy clinics with that same focus.
Yeah, good stuff. So, while we wait for any other questions, Ian, just want people to know about what you're up to, any future projects, and where people should go to check out your work. If you could let us know about that.
Yeah, the big thing for me, I'm very, I mean, you know me, Mehrban, we've done this a bunch of times, and I'm usually like, whatever, just go check out the YouTube channel. But this year is different. I've had a 4.5-year project that is coming to a close finally, and that is my first book. So if everybody would go over to Amazon and check it out and pre-order the book, that'd be amazing. I'm biased. I think it's incredibly valuable and insightful and will help players. It doesn't matter what your level is, reach the next level of play. And it comes out on May 31st. So it's pre-order right now. And Mehrban, you and I are going to be doing some content together soon. I'm looking forward to that a lot. We haven't collaborated together before, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that to see you come down here. So that'll be great. Yeah. Oh, and actually, I think I remember there was a question earlier about the book, which was, is there going to be doubles content in it?
Yeah, there is. There's, I want to say, at least 3 or 4 chapters that are double specific, and there's, I don't know, maybe the same number that are single specific. There's 38 chapters in the book, and everything else is like universal, like tennis principles, that it doesn't matter if you're a singles player or doubles player. It's just essential information. It's for you, Mehrban.
There you go. Yes. Thank you. Love it. Love puns. Let's see here. Yeah, definitely get the book. Really excited to see you see your book out. I know you've spent a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears, and from what I've heard, it's extremely difficult process. So good job. Great job.
Yeah, it was a 5-year project, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
Yeah.
Tim Ferriss. I don't know if you're familiar with Tim Ferriss podcast.
Podcast.
One of my favorite quotes about writing a book is from him. He answered a question once on his podcast. Somebody asked him, "When do you know that you should write a book?" And Tim said, "You should only write a book if writing it is easier than not writing it." And for me, I felt like it was the case for me, where it's like, I don't feel like I have a choice but to do all the content, that I do. I just feel compelled to create stuff and share and to try to learn more and more about the game and bring more insight to myself and other people. And so, the book just ended up being a natural byproduct of all that work. The thousands and thousands of videos and the thousands of podcasts and the thousands of emails and blog articles and so that's what the book is. It's just the culmination of all that work over the last 12 years into one resource.
Love that. And so people can just go to Amazon, and then what would you want them to type in there just to let them know?
Essential Tennis. Yeah, I don't think it's ranking super high yet for like tennis book, but by June, if you just type in tennis book, you'll hopefully find it. But Essential Tennis will bring it up, and it's audiobook, Kindle, hardcover, paperback, whatever you like to buy.
Excellent. So I know going a while. I got a couple more questions. Okay. So where do you suggest serving to an Australian, mid tee versus wide versus body?
Yeah, so wide is always going to be the toughest spot to get the net player involved. In general, whether you're poaching, whether you're faking, whether you're doing Australian or standard formation, most Craig, you've probably had Craig O'Shaughnessy, I'm sure. Mehrban. He talks a lot about the center window. The vast majority of tennis shots go through a chunk of court, like an airspace of like, what is it, 6 foot by 6 foot or something like that? What's the size of the?
Forgot the exact. Yeah.
So if you start the point by putting the ball out wide off the court, it makes it tougher for the ball to travel through that center window. If you start the ball in the middle of the court, then it's much more likely the ball travels back through the center, coming back over to your side. So whether you're playing Australian or standard or or whatever, if the goal is to get the net player involved, then we more or less want the ball traveling through that middle, that center window. So either body on the tee side of the court or a tee serve, just geometrically speaking, are your best bets to get the net player involved.
Excellent. Good stuff. Fart Monkey, thank you. Always fun to listen to you both. Thank you for the name again. I can't stop laughing. Sifu, how does the receiver's net man signal the receiver that he is going to poach?
Receiver's net man signal the receiver he's going to poach. Yeah, you'll see this on the receiving side, but I feel like I don't know that I've ever seen this like below like a college level of competition. You for sure see it in professional tennis where the receiver's partner will do signals like behind the back.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's so much it's probably two things. Either signaling the returner to go down the line because they're maybe intercepting a signal or anticipating that this is going to be a poach, or they may also be signaling that they're going to cross. The thing with signaling the cross after the return is there's so many variables on the other side. If the serve is 120 miles an hour and on the tee, then not the best call to call up like for sure we're poaching and then go across the court. So I think most of the poaches off the return are more freelance. I think the signal is probably more used, but this is just conjecture here. I think the signal is more used for like cross court versus down the line return target.
Yeah, I have used that to signal my partner that I'm going to poach and whatnot sometimes. Yeah.
Usually on a second serve, probably.
Yeah, usually on the second. Yeah. When I know my partner will have a good whack at it and I can pick it off, hopefully. Yeah, good stuff. Michael, Essential Tennis, exactly. That's what you're going to search in Amazon. Randy Sker, my wife is 3.25. Your work helps me 4.25 to teach her. I just have to say you said it. Good. Authority.
Randy, that's really, I mean, I can tell you've been married for more than a year or two. That you're a really smart guy, and keep using that strategy. I'm glad I can be helpful.
Yes.
That way she can blame it on me when it doesn't work and not on you.
Ah, wow, Randy's smart.
Yeah.
Randy Skier. Jack, how is the new ET place, Ian?
It's working out well. It's not as flexible as the previous space, but there's no forklifts and storage units and like crashing and screeching coming from the, it's nice to be in a tennis space again. That's like just tennis. Yeah. The downside is it's not as flexible. We have to schedule our time around when that particular court is available. So yeah, that's the downside. But it's really nice being around just a normal tennis environment again.
Yeah, cool. Good stuff. Dave, how do we decide who plays ad side and who plays deuce side?
Just personal preference. You'll hear a lot of people talking about putting forehands, in the middle, or the stronger player, playing the ad side. I don't really subscribe to either of those, to be honest with you. If you're playing lefty-righty, like the Bryan brothers, for example, you'll see them switch from set to set. Who's on the deuce side, who's on the ad side. It just depends on what's working that day is all that really matters. That being said, like if you've been playing tennis for 20 years and you've never returned on the deuce side, well, probably makes sense to let your partner know that you have a strong preference to play the ad side, as in like an extreme situation. In terms of like putting the stronger player on the ad side, the thing is, if the weak player is so weak, then the strong player will never have a game point anyway. Like if every point on the deuce side is lost, then the best that the strong player can do is just try to save game point down. And so like at some point the weaker player still has to contribute, whether it's on the deuce side or the ad side. Like we got to win a point on the weaker player's side at some point. Otherwise you can't win a game. Well, I take that back. If it's no ad and you lose every point on the deuce side and you always choose to turn on the stronger player's side, then I could see it, making sense. But the same logic applies to having the strong player on the deuce side. If you win every point on the deuce side and the ad person loses every point, well, we're still in the same predicament here. Like we got to win a point on the other side at some point. So for me, it's more so about personal preferences and personal like patterns. Like for me, my backhand has always been chronically late. And I'm sorry to do this to everybody. As a lefty, that means, well, let me just do it righty. So imagine I'm a righty. If my backhand is always late and my forehand I can hit wherever I want. If my backhand's always late and my forehand I can hit wherever I want, then it makes more sense for me to be on the deuce side, because a late backhand is still going to go cross court and avoid the net player. But if you put me on the ad side, even if I'm the stronger player and the server's picking on my backhand and it's always going to the net player, then they just totally found a way. So it all depends on personal strengths and weaknesses, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I actually play deuce side because I heavily favor my forehand, and I did previously have like hit the backhand a little bit late, so it worked out super well. I'd be actually like hitting these crazy winners and whatnot. But that sounds pretty egotistical of me to say. But anyway, Harris, my friend Harris, how are you?
What's up,
how
Harris?
Are you? Well dressed. Oh, you know Harris too, man. Harris.
Yeah, yeah. Remember, I was on the East Coast for a while, Mehrban. I'm looking forward to being back there a lot. Right. Yeah, what's up, Harris? Good to hear from you.
Yeah. Can't wait to see you next week. Empower the weaker teammate for sure. Sifu, the old style was lefty in the ad and righty in the deuce. Yeah, right. Gotcha.
Right, and so another thing I can't stand about doubles is like everybody talks about the forehand side, and so that like old school way of looking at it is like you take your forehand side and I'll take my forehand side. Well, against a good team, assumedly, they can make me hit a backhand. Like unless their serve is terrible and I can hit whatever I want, then I'm going to have to hit a backhand at some point, whether it's the forehand side of the court or not, number one. Number two, remember most shots go through the center window. So if both players are playing their forehand side, that means that our backhands are in the middle, and now we're hitting a crap load of backhands because everything is going through the center of the court. So I guess my bottom line for me is it's just not so simple as saying like stronger player on the ad side or forehand, play your forehand side or forehands in the middle or whatever. Like sure, those are all good general rules of thumb, but if you use them as like your gospel, then you're going to be missing out on more nuanced opportunities.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Randy, just say I love you, dear. Yep, that's true. Yeah, you know it. Mike's a Harris fan, of course. They're both my buddies. Ian was an official for me at Congressional. Love this in him. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's a nice area, Ian. I'm glad you get to see it again soon.
Yeah, I'm
keeps the
excited.
marriage better. Yeah, good stuff. So, Ian, any last thoughts or anything? Just to recap or generalize or close this session.
I guess I would just kind of close with what we started with, just the whole idea of being proactive versus reactive. To me, the three things we talked about today are the first like building blocks, and in particular the split step. I know it's like the most boring like eye roll topic ever, because everybody's heard about it a cajillion times, but nobody does it. So please, for the love of God, start practicing it, because it makes such a massive difference, like a very tangible, practical difference in your level of play. So start at the basics, start at the essentials, do them really well, be proactive, and you'll play better tennis. There's no doubt about it.
Great stuff. Great stuff. I can't resist this one if you have time. Would you say the key to a righty returning his deuce court backhand cross court is the shoulder unit turn?
On the deuce court. See, not really, just because it's inside out. So like you can have. That's why, as a lefty, like I was a lot of times better on the ad side, because my backhand is so late, aka I didn't turn myself well. And so it ended up working out, like my crappy backhand ended up working out well a lot of times on the ad side, because it would just kind of automatically go inside out. So no, I think just timing, if you can do it with a good body turn, that's better. So do it that way. But I wouldn't say that's the key to it. No, it's more so just timing it well and getting the racket face facing your target.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Tracy, great stuff, guys. Glad you liked it. Mike, I'll research all split videos just for you, Ian. Hopefully I'll make you proud one day.
Awesome. Thank you. It was all worth it. Everything was worthwhile just for Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Footwork is key on any inside out forehand or backhand. Yeah, exactly. So, and one last thing, just a little plug, is that if you enjoyed this session and you'd like to just watch it over and over again, as well as the other 40 plus sessions on the summit, then I put in here Ian's link to support him if you'd like to get the all access pass. So just definitely think that over if you want to get the whole library of all the lessons for this whole week. It's definitely a valuable resource. But yeah, with that, Ian, looking forward to the book, to seeing you next week. And I really appreciate you coming on. I think people really, really enjoyed this one, as you could see in the comments. So yeah, just looking forward to doing more content with you and just seeing how far you grow. So keep up the great work, and thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Mehrban. Thanks for coordinating the tennis summit. I know it's, well, I actually don't. I don't. You and Peter, Freeman, you both have your conferences, and I don't know. I know from the standpoint of like just doing my own content, how much work it is, but coordinating all those different, the schedules and the topics, and I really respect you a lot for putting that together. So thanks for the service that you do to the tennis community. I know people appreciate it a lot, so keep up the good work. And yeah, looking forward to making some videos in a couple days.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for the kind words, Ian, and thank you everybody as well. So we'll see you on the next one, and take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.